Betio Island, Tarawa Atoll. The air does not move. It is a solid, wet heat that smells of diesel fuel, coral dust, and a sweetness that the veterans of Guadalcanal already know too well. The battle for Betio, 76 hours of concentrated fury, is technically over. The silence it leaves behind is louder than the bombardment. In this silence, Lieutenant Eli Vance, United States Navy, walks. He is not a Marine. He carries a notebook, not a rifle. His credentials are from the Bureau of Ordnance, attached to the 2nd Marine Division's specialists. He is a man sent to read the autopsy of a battlefield, to understand the mechanics of failure. And Tarawa, for all its eventual victory, is a ledger of failures. The landing craft hung up on the reef. The radios waterproofed with hope instead of rubber. The tanks drowned in the surf. Vance ignores the debris of the beach, the shattered Amtraks, the discarded packs. He moves inland toward the airfield. His focus is on the enemy's engineering. The Japanese defenses were not primitive. They were precise, interlocking, and brutally effective. He stops near a cratered emplacement on the airfield's perimeter. It is a twisted mass of dark green steel, pockmarked by 50 caliber rounds and scorched by a flamethrower. It's a Type 96 25mm anti-aircraft gun, a triple mount. He runs a gloved hand over the central barrel, feeling the warp of the metal. These guns, more than the mortars, more than the hidden bunkers, are what savaged the air support. The Dauntless and Avenger pilots reported a sky filled not with lines of tracers, but with solid walls of explosive fire. The weapon is destroyed, its crew gone, but it holds a secret. Vance stares at the feed mechanism, a curved 15-round box magazine, lying discarded and rusted in the mud. It looks inefficient. It looks clumsy, but the math does not add up. The theory held by naval intelligence back in Pearl did not match the survival rate of the pilots who flew against it. This lump of junk, he senses, is the unresolved problem. Vance kneels, his boots sinking into the grey slurry. He is methodical. An engineer from Detroit transplanted into the apocalypse. He begins his work, sketching the emplacement, measuring the thickness of the gun shield. He notes the complex protected sights. Most Marines see a dead gun. Vance sees a question. He examines the operating mechanism, scraping away the soot. It is not recoil-operated like the reliable Bofors. He sees a piston, a gas port drilled directly into the barrel. He probes the action. It is a gas-operated system. He recognizes the lineage, the old French Hotchkiss machine gun. But this is different. It's been refined, simplified, and scaled up to fire a 25mm explosive shell. A Marine sergeant, supervising a burial detail nearby, stops. "Nasty piece of work, Lieutenant. Saw what one of these did to a landing craft. Just unzipped it." Vance nods, his mind elsewhere. "It's gas-operated, Sergeant. That's not what the manuals said." "Means nothing to me, sir. It's just scrap." But to Vance, it means everything. A gas system implies a violent, rapid action. He tries to cycle the bolt carrier. It is frozen, welded by the heat. He looks at the other two barrels, equally mangled. The Japanese used 15-round magazines. How could something so limited in capacity, relying on manual reloads, create the sheets of fire the pilots described? It seems impossible. His initial reaction is confusion. The design feels contradictory. It is heavy, yet seemingly dependent on a small, clumsy ammunition feed. Then he looks again at the triple mount. 3 guns, 1 trigger, 1 gunner. His blood runs cold. He begins to understand the terrible arithmetic. The weapon wasn't designed for sustained fire like an American M2 Browning. It was designed for saturation. It was a shotgun, not a rifle. What he didn't know, what no one in US Ordnance truly understood yet, was that this idea, a high-velocity gas-operated autocannon, was a mechanical predator. And this wreck held the secret to its speed. The official reports from the Bureau of Ordnance, filed under Japanese ordnance capabilities, were clear. The Type 96 20-funny gun was designated a secondary threat. Field reports classified it as a derivative of the 1930s Hotchkiss gun, a design the US Navy had tested and rejected for its own ships. The consensus was that Japanese manufacturing, known for prioritizing quantity over quality, could not produce a reliable high-velocity autocannon. Data from the early Solomons campaign seemed to support this. Analysis of captured ammunition showed inconsistencies in powder loads. Reports from pilots often confused the 25mm with the lighter 13. 2mm heavy machine gun. The primary threats were the 40mm and 75mm heavy AA guns, the ones that targeted the B-17s at altitude. The 25mm was dismissed as a point defense weapon, a nuisance. But by 1943, the nuisance was becoming a nightmare. As the island-hopping campaign intensified, U.S. forces were engaging in low-level ground support missions. F-6F Hellcats and SBD Dauntlesses were coming in on the deck to strafe and bomb Japanese airfields. They were flying directly into the kill box of the Type 96. Pilot after-action reports began to change. They stopped calling the fire inaccurate and started calling it impenetrable. An AAR from VMS B-233, dated 18th of November 1943, during the initial strikes on Tarawa, reads, "Target was Red Beach 3, encountered intense, rapid-fire AA. Fire was explosive, not solid shot. My wingman, Ensign Peters, took hits. His entire tail section disintegrated. The fire was faster than anything I've seen. It was not Bofors. It was not .50 caliber. This report was one of dozens. The Japanese were putting up a curtain of high-explosive shells that American aircraft simply could not fly through. The U.S. weapon for this role, the M2 Browning .50 caliber, fired a heavy, solid slug. It was devastating against infantry, but it was a machine gun. The Type 96 was a cannon, and it was firing as fast as a machine gun. The human consequence of this intelligence failure is measured in blood and fire. For a Hellcat pilot, the world is reduced to the square of glass in his gun sight and the needle on his airspeed indicator. He trusts his machine. He trusts the M2 Brownings in his wings. He trusts the reports that tell him his primary threat is the ground. He does not expect the sky itself to explode. A pilot, Second Lieutenant James Sonny Rostova, describes his run on Betio. "We came in low, maybe 50 feet. You see the traces. You're taught to fly through the traces. 50 calis. You can take a few hits. It's a big plane, but this wasn't traces. It was like popcorn. Black puffs everywhere. It sounded like hail on the fuselage. Then it stopped sounding like hail and started sounding like hammers." Rostova's plane made it back. His wingman did not. The loss was total. The plane did not limp home, trailing smoke. It simply ceased to exist, atomized by a cloud of 25-minute high-explosive rounds. The pilots who survived described a wall of sound. They felt the overpressure from the shells buffeting their aircraft before the shrapnel even hit. Morale was cracking. How do you fight an enemy whose guns seem to defy the laws of physics? This is the cost of statistical error. It is the exhaustion in the eyes of the pilots, the empty bunks on the carriers. It is the frustration of the ordnance chiefs, who can't understand why their reliable Brownings aren't suppressing the Japanese positions. The Japanese weapon is clumsy. It uses small magazines. It's a copy. Experts in Washington and Pearl agreed. It shouldn't be this effective. It couldn't be done. But on Tarawa, the evidence was smoking in the sand. These small details, found in the wreckage, are often the keys that unlock the largest tactical puzzles. Lieutenant Eli Vance is not a warrior. He is 32 years old, and until 1942, his greatest engineering challenge was redesigning a transmission assembly for a new line of civilian trucks at Ford. He grew up in the shadow of the River Rouge complex, a place where the air hummed with the sound of mass production. He is a man who understands tolerances, metallurgy, and the brutal, simple logic of a machine. He did not enlist. He was commissioned, pulled from his comfortable Dearborn life by a navy that desperately needed men who understood how things worked. He is quiet, nearsighted, and carries a slide rule in his breast pocket. He is a 90-day wonder, a civilian in an officer's uniform, and the career men at the Bureau of Ordnance treat him with a mild, polite disdain. He doesn't think in terms of tactics. He thinks in terms of inputs and outputs, gas pressures and rates of fire. This is what makes him different. When the other officers look at the Type 96, they see a Japanese weapon. Vance sees a mechanical solution to a problem. He is not blinded by dogma. He does not assume American superiority. He knows that steel and powder are the same in any language. His mind is shaped by the relentless competition of the Detroit auto industry, where a new, more efficient design from a competitor could bankrupt you. He looks at Japanese engineering not as inferior, but simply as different. A different sets of priorities. And this, he suspects, is what everyone is missing. Vance and the Marine Sergeant Rook work on the wreckage of the Triple Mount for 2 days. The heat is oppressive. They use a block and tackle to haul the central gun free from its mangled mount. "Sir, if you don't mind me asking," Rook says, wrestling with a frozen bolt, "why this gun? There's a dozen of them on this island." "This one," Vance says, pointing to the gas piston, "is the one the pilots are afraid of. I want to know why." He finally manages to break the action open. The internals are caked in carbon, but the machining is good. It's clean. He finds the serial numbers. He finds the arsenal stamp. This is not a rough last-ditch weapon. This is a purpose-built, high-quality machine. He looks at the 15-round magazine. "Rook, how fast can you change a mag on your bar?" 2 seconds, sir. Maybe 3 in the dark." "This one," Vance says, practicing with the rusted magazine, "is heavy. But the latch is simple. 5 seconds. Maybe 6. A good crew, 3 guns. One is always firing." He does the math again on his notepad. A single M2 Browning. Cyclic rate is about 550 rounds per minute. That's our baseline. That's what we know. He points to the Type 96. The intelligence reports say this has a cyclic rate of 260. Even with 3 barrels, that's only 780. It's fast, but... He pauses. He stares at the gas piston. It's thick, robust. "The reports are wrong," he says half to himself. "Sir, the reports are wrong. They estimated the rate of fire based on the old Hotchkiss design. This piston, this mechanism. It's built for speed. It's built to be violent. They aren't firing at 260. I think they're firing much, much faster." Rook wipes sweat from his face. Faster than a Browning, sir? A 50 cal? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Nothing fires faster than a Browning. I think this does, Vance says, his voice quiet. And it's firing explosive shells. We're taking this back to Pearl. We're going to make it work. The journey back to Oahu is a logistical feat. The triple mount, weighing over 2 tons, is loaded onto an LST classified as Captured Enemy Material, Technical Analysis. It arrives at the Naval Ordnance Test Station at Pearl Harbor, a humid collection of workshops and firing ranges hidden in a valley. Here, Vance is no longer an oddity. He is among his own kind. His new ally is Chief Petty Officer Miller, a master machinist who, before the war, built custom racing engines. Miller looks at the mangled Type 96 with a craftsman's eye. She's beat all to hell, Lieutenant, but the bones are good. The Japs knew what they were doing with this gas system. It's overbuilt, simple, stupid simple. For 3 weeks, they prepare for the test. The workshop fills with the smell of solvent and the sound of a lathe cutting new parts. They cannibalize 2 of the guns to make 1 pristine, operational barrel and action. They machine a new mount. They find a crate of 25mm ammunition, cleaning the saltwater corrosion off each round by hand. Vance and Miller become obsessed. They sleep in the workshop. They study the trigger mechanism, a complex sear that allows for single shots or full automatic fire. They are rebuilding the monster that killed so many Americans, and they do it with a kind of reverent respect. "Look at this, sir," Miller says, holding up the bolt carrier. "No fine-tuning, just mass. It hits the buffer, it bounces back. It's a brute. It's designed to just run." The preparation is tense. They are working in secret. The official directive is to analyze, not rebuild. But Vance knows he cannot prove his theory with a slide rule. He needs data. He needs the sound of the gun. On the final day, they mount the single operational gun on a test stand aimed at a thick earthen berm. A high-speed camera is set up. A microphone is placed. Vance looks at Miller. "Let's see what we've got." Miller loads the 15-round magazine. It clicks into place. Vance steps back. Miller takes a breath and pulls the trigger. The first attempt is a failure. A dull clack. The primer is a dud. They unload, clear the weapon and reload. The humidity is choking. Miller pulls the trigger again. The sound is not the chug-chug-chug of an M2 Browning. It is not the stately thump-thump of a 40mm Bofors. It is a single, terrifying, high-pitched brrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr 15 rounds are gone in 1 3 seconds. Vance and Miller stare, their ears ringing. Miller whistles low and long. My God. Vance checks the high-speed camera footage. His hands shaking slightly. He counts the frames. He does the math. Chief, that's not 260 rounds per minute. No, sir. That's 700 rounds per minute, from a single barrel. They look at each other. The realization hits them like a physical blow. The M2 Browning fires at 550. This Japanese copy, this clumsy design, fires faster than the legendary American heavy machine gun, and it's firing 25mm explosive shells. Now! The triple mount, Vance says. A crew of 3, 1 firing, 1 loading. They could sustain that. A combined rate of fire of 2100 rounds per minute. It is a moment of pure, terrifying discovery. The wall of fire the pilots reported was real. It was faster, denser, and more powerful than anything in the American arsenal. If stories like this fascinate you, stay with us. The next chapter of wartime innovation might surprise you. The briefing room at SINCPAC headquarters is cold. The air is dry from the humming air conditioner. Lieutenant Vance stands at a podium, facing 3 Navy captains and an Army Air Forces colonel. His report is titled, Analysis of Type 96 25mm AA Gun, Performance Data and Tactical Implications. Lieutenant, the senior captain begins, his voice flat. Your report makes an extraordinary claim. You are stating that a captured Japanese 25mm weapon, a copy of a 1930s French design, outperforms the Browning M2. Sir, in one metric, yes, Vance says, his voice steady. Reliability, no. Barrel life, no. But in terms of pure cyclic rate, what we tested on Oahu is cycling at 700 rounds per minute. The Browning M2 is 550, and it is firing a high-explosive incendiary round, not a solid slug. The colonel leans forward. Son, I've seen what a quad 50 mount can do. Are you telling me this little pop gun is worse? It's not a pop gun, sir, Vance says. He clicks a slide projector. A photo of the 25mm shell appears. This round has a 20-gram explosive filler. The 50 caliber has none. The M2 pokes holes. This shatters airframes. It severs control cables. It detonates fuel tanks. He shows the high-speed film. The sound is off, but the violence of the ejection, the blur of the bolt carrier is undeniable. The intelligence from BUORD states the weapon is prone to jamming and overheating. One captain objects. It is, sir, Vance counters, his passion rising. The 15-round magazine is a critical weakness. The barrel heats fast. But the Japanese don't use it the way we use a Bofors. They don't use it for sustained fire. They use it for ambush. They wait until our pilots are 500 yards out, and then they empty 3 magazines. A single triple mount puts 45 explosive shells in the air in less than 5 seconds. It's a saturation weapon. Our pilots are not being shot down. They are being disintegrated. There is a long silence in the room. The officers look at the data, they look at the film. They are engineers and commanders, and they cannot argue with the numbers on the page. Your conclusion, Lieutenant? The senior captain asks. My conclusion, sir, is that our tactical doctrine is wrong. We are treating the Type 96 like a machine gun. It is not. It is a high-speed cannon. We must prioritize its destruction. Our pilots must be warned not to fly into its envelope. Low-level strafing against a position with these guns is suicide. The transition from the sterile briefing room to the chaos of combat is immediate. The real test of Vance's report comes not on a range, but in the skies over Kwajalein Atoll, February 1944. A pilot from VF-16, flying an F-6F Hellcat off the USS Lexington, banks over the lagoon. The pre-mission briefing was different this time. It included a new silhouette, the Type 96 triple mount. The new orders were direct, printed in red on the briefing sheets. Do not engage 25mm triple mounts. Priority 1 suppression. Fire envelope is extremely dangerous. Use rockets or dive bombing, do not strafe. The pilot, callsign Jester, sees his target, a Japanese fuel dump near the airfield. He also sees the perimeter. He spots 3 of the triple mounts, dug in and sandbagged. The old doctrine was to strafe them first, suppress them with his 6 M2 Brownings. He remembers the briefing, he remembers the film of the test firing. Jester 1 to Jester 2, he says over the radio. Target perimeter is hot. Multiple 25mm nests. I'm going high. Follow me. He climbs to 800 feet out of the 25mm effective range. He rolls his Hellcat over into a steep dive, the engine whining. He is not aiming for the guns. He is aiming near them. He releases his 500-pound bomb. His wingman does the same. The bombs hit the fuel dump. The resulting explosion is massive. The overpressure and shrapnel from the blast wipe out 2 of the 3 gun emplacements without a single American plane flying into their sights. This scene is repeated across the Central Pacific. Losses among low-level attack aircraft begin to drop. The Type 96, once a nuisance, is now treated with the respect it has earned. The new doctrine, built on Vance's technical analysis, saves lives. Back at Pearl Harbor, Vance receives a 1-sentence memo from the senior captain. Your analysis was correct. Tactical doctrine has been amended. Well done. Nods. The immediate outcome of Vance's discovery was a fundamental shift in how the U.S. Navy approached air-to-ground attacks. The Type 96 25mm gun remained a lethal threat until the last day of the war, but it was a threat that was now understood. In the Battle of the Philippine Sea, the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, American pilots, trained to identify and avoid the 25mm kill box, dominated the skies. The Japanese gunners, facing planes that would not fly into their sights, were suppressed by heavy bombs and naval gunfire. Long-term, the impact of the Type 96 was more subtle. The American military establishment had been forced to confront a hard truth. An enemy they considered technically inferior had fielded a standard-issue weapon that was, in a critical way, superior to their own. The experience fed directly into post-war weapons development. The American love affair with the M2 Browning continued, but the quest for a higher rate of fire in autocannons became a holy grail. The gas-operated mechanism, which Vance had identified as the source of the Type 96's speed, was studied intensely. This principle, using the weapon's own explosive gases to cycle the action at violent speeds, would become the basis for countless post-war designs, culminating in the M61 Vulcan, a 6,000 round-per-minute rotary cannon. The Type 96 had proven that, in air defense, volume of fire could be more important than anything else. Lieutenant Eli Vance finished his tour. He filed his reports. He was offered a permanent commission, but declined. He returned to Detroit in 1945, took off his uniform, and went back to designing transmissions for Ford. He rarely spoke of his time in the Pacific. His contribution, a vital piece of battlefield analysis that saved countless lives, was filed away, classified, and forgotten. The thousands of Type 96 guns captured after the war were melted down for scrap, their secrets already learned. Today, the debate that Vance's discovery highlighted continues. In engineering, in business, and in warfare, the conflict between precision and volume, between sustained reliability and short-term overwhelming force, is constant. The modern Phalanx CIWS, the R2-D2 on the deck of every U.S. warship, is the spiritual descendant of that Japanese gun. It is a weapon built on a single idea: to fill a 1-second window of time with an impenetrable wall of metal, firing faster than any human can think. The greatest danger in any conflict is not the enemy's weapon. It is your own certainty. It is the arrogance that assumes your engineering is superior, your doctrine is infallible, and your enemy is primitive, Underestimating an opponent based on prejudice rather than performance is the most reliable way to fail. The Type 96 was a hard lesson in steel and cordite, a reminder that innovation can come from anywhere. The rusted skeletons of those triple mounts still sit on the beaches of Betio and Saipan. They are tourist attractions now, silent witnesses to the heat and the fear. They are a monument to the moment when assumptions shattered against the hard, fast reality of a machine built for one purpose. Every great idea begins as an act of defiance against impossibility. What impossible ideas do you think could change the world?